So they were giving an instructions manual back then. It sure would have been nice if I had one of those myself instead of being forced to figure out how everything works on my own. I press the next button and the device begins to give me information regarding my newly activated stats. The magical sense stat is designed to improve my aura analysis skill. The text on the screen says depending on how many points you invest in it, you should be able to detect auras from a much further distance than before. Ability to discern the difference between subtle patterns in the flow of aura should also improve considerably. What? Your ability to discern the difference. Okay. However, the result you will get from the stat will highly depend on your own aura reading abilities. If your magical sense is particularly weak, the effects may be less visible unless you invest a high amount of points into the stat. As I press the button on the right side of the screen, I get the next text, new text that describes another one of my aura stats. The aura hardening stat's main purpose is to increase your defensive capabilities against magical attacks, not physical attack, magical attacks. That's something. I thought it would block like physical attacks because Hardrick uses the same thing and he can block physical attacks through his aura hardening, but okay. It should not be used as a replacement for toughness or reflex stats because the defenses offers against physical attacks is minimal. A test have shown that the aura hardening stat is said to be the most effective against traditional elemental magic, but it should also be useful against artificially created elemental magic such as electricity, acid, ice. Please be aware the aura hardening stat will not defend you against non-magical elements, so you should still dodge incoming projectiles if they weren't magically created out of thin air. So this would be very good for fighting that guy with the rings. Aura hardening stat side note, the next page says some of our test subjects have also managed to use this stat offensively by concentrating the aura hardening effect around their fist and then punching magical projectiles back at their casters. However, you are not advised to attempt such a technique in an uncontrolled environment because we are unable to replicate these effects in a reliable manner. When I press the button on my device once more, the text for the third experimental stat appears on the screen. The bluff or aura concealment stat is designed to help you control your aura, the text says. There's two primary. I feel like if I use this, if I put any amount of stats in this one, the aura concealment stat, I feel like what was his name again? Aiden. I feel like Aiden would just show up in my face. I was like, oh, you got a new ability. It has two primary purposes. First of all, the stat will allow you to keep the flow of your aura stable enough to avoid lie detection if your level is high enough. Just like with magical sense stats, the effects it will have on you will highly depend on your own ability to control your aura. If your aura control is very poor, then you will need to invest more points in this stat to make it reasonably effective. So it feels like only aura hardening would be doable at the moment. Second utility of the stat was discovered during testing. The next page says, while the initial purpose of the stat was to keep your aura flow stable, a few of the test subjects found out that with enough practice it could also be used to hide their auras completely, making themselves undetectable in terms of magical sense. After receiving this new information, we made a few adjustments to the bluff stat, also made it a secondary name in order to better reflect its potential. If you are unable to use the stat to conceal your aura, please contact the person who is in charge of your stat activation so they can readjust your device. When I press on the next button one more time, it shows one final text before I can proceed to my usual stat screen. This concludes the introduction of the experimental aura stats. The text says, pressing on the next page button will now return you to the stats screen. Don't forget that if you have any point invested into your stats before the activation, you will need to reinvest them as they have been reset. As soon as I press the button, the stats screen finally appears and I can see my 3 new stats which are right below the other stats which are currently all at level 0. I'm also noticing that I have few extra points to spend. There should be bonus point, the Layla's father said I would gain because of blocking my stats by accident. This one that would cause me to gain 1. So I'm guessing even in the what is it called, the perfect playthrough, I'm going to have to lock my stat device up anyway because it gives you extra stat point, so you definitely want to get that. Because of locking a stat incident, the one that would cause me to gain 1 less point when I'll be getting mine, that's just a transfer of stat point. Then I'll have to think whether I want to start investing my points right now or should I wait until later where I make my decision. As is true with this my playthrough, I will invest them right now because technically speaking, if you're playing this, I would recommend, like, before you press continue on any screen, just save the game. And if like it's like, oh, a hearing stat fails, so you just put the points in whatever stat that you want to put in. That's how you're technically supposed to play this, but I'm just gonna invest them as it pleases me, because that's just how I've done so far. We're gonna go with the observation, you're gonna go with the hearing, we're gonna go with the reflexes, speed. I'm just gonna fucking invest in my base stats because I feel like that's much better. Don't have the strength, so I can only invest in 2 more points and half and 1. I'm not investing anything in the new stats, fuck that. I don't know enough about them. And yeah, whatever, as I said, this is not how you're supposed to do this, but I just like doing it this way. I'm gonna go with ancient language, maybe. I do need to get that one thing, so I'm guessing that. And then I'm gonna go with strength because toughness has not been used so far. And we'll go with 1 point in premonition, 1 point in combat technique. Alright, confirm changes. This is the horrible decision that I've made. You definitely should not be making the same decision, but this is how it is, and we're gonna continue. Did I take it that your new stats were successfully unlocked? Kate asked me when she sees me putting the stat device back in my pocket. Yes, I say, my device is fully functional and I have all 3 of my new stat devices activated. Why did you invest, but did you invest any points into them? Kate says. No, not yet, I say. I did, why not? Later writes, aren't you even a little bit curious to see what these new stats can do? I don't want to spend points just to satisfy my curiosity, I say. I'll level them up when I find a good opportunity to use them. I could probably have used the detection stat, but my detection was already super low, so who gives a fuck? Magical knowledge, you know, our boy already has. Barry is good with it, so we'll go on with that. We travel through the underground corridors for another 20 minutes or so until we finally reach a dead end, in the sense that no matter which way we go from here, we will be forced to disarm one of the magical traps. As we get closer to the tunnel entrance where one of the traps have been placed, Bruno steps to the front so he can take a good look at it. The trap is practically invisible to the naked eye, but we can all feel its presence even if we don't see it. Still, it's difficult to feel what triggering it would do, just from the sensing the aura and magical energy around it. I recognize some of these spells, Reynan says. One of them is a mind-affecting spell, and 2 of them... And there's also around 3 different types of earth spells thrown in there. That being said, I can't say that I feel very confident trying to disarm this just with the knowledge that I have. Maybe we could try to study some of the traps in the other corridors to see if we'll get luckier with them. I doubt it, Mordor says. The reason why I bought you this corridor especially is because the trap over here seemed to be the easiest one to dispel. The other ones are much more complicated. Well, I'm telling you that I can't deal with this one on my own, Brennan says. Even if it's supposed to be easy, disarming traps has never been one of my specialties. I don't have anywhere near the level of skill required to dispel it. But what if Luna were to help you? I say, do you think you might be able to handle it then? I already told you that I'm not good at disarming magical traps, Luna says. Even if I were to help him, we still wouldn't get anywhere. Well, then it's a good thing we have an expert in dispelling magic right here with us, Melindra says as she pats me hard on the back. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Inventor of Brynhorn dispelling technique? I'm not an expert on anything, I say. Like I've already mentioned before, I only invented that technique on a whim. Of course, Melindra says, and she pushes both Luna and me from behind her to get us closest to Brain. And now you two go over there and see what you can do to help. It won't hurt. It won't hurt you if you just give it one try, will you? I suppose not, I say. Then I begin to slowly advance towards Brainan, alongside Luna. I'm not sure what this whole Brynhorn dispelling technique inventor thing was about, but come take a look, Brennan says as he points at the empty air in front of him. You see the weird flow that keeps going back and forth? This must be coming from an electricity spell of some kind, but I'm not familiar at all with it. It's not electricity, it's acid, Luna says. I recognize it because Arka has taught me about this spell in the past when she was acting as my mentor. Did she also teach you how to cast it? What's the name of the spell? Do they teach it in any of the manuals? It's a spell similar to the one that called Zaldrin's Acid Butterfly, Luna says. The 2 spells are almost identical except for the 3 small redirection of the magic flow in order to make the spell's effects more potent. What? So Zildrin's Acid Butterfly is a better spell compared to the normal acid spell? Zaldrin's Acid Butterfly says, oh, you mean the spell where you need to put your hand in front of you in form of an X and start saying the incantation right before you let the flow come off your fingertips. After hearing my last sentence, Brainan and Luna both simultaneously turn their heads to look at me, not entirely sure how to react. What? I asked them as they both still staring. I've been reading books about magic all of my life. I know these sort of things to heart already. things by heart already. Yes, I suppose that would make sense, Luna says. To answer your question, the hand motion, the incantations are not mandatory, but they can help with guiding the magical flow of energy correctly. For example, someone like Araka, who knows the ins and outs of magic like the back of her hand, would not need to move a muscle to cast this spell, but someone like me would never be able to cast it without the hand motions. But as long as you know the motions for the original spell, all you need to do is reverse them. I say the only problem is that we still need to figure out the order in which these spells were cast.